Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I would like to begin by thanking Bedfordshire police officers and staff for the magnificent job they do keeping my constituents safe, and also to register my disgust at those people who spit and cough over police officers or indeed attack or try and harm them in any way. Keeping the public safe is the highest duty of any government. When I was first elected to Parliament in 2001, I campaigned on a platform to restore the 88 police officers which had been recently lost to the force. In 2005, I stood on a platform of recruiting an extra 5,000 police officers. And only just over a year ago, this government was elected on a pledge to recruit 20,000 more officers. And we are making good progress on that target, with Bedfordshire having already received an additional 54 officers from that funding, and now having more officers than ever before at 1,257. Back in 2017-18, Bedfordshire Police had a budget of £102.2 million. For 2021-22, it'll be £127.4 million, an increase of 25% during a 4-year period. And so it would be wrong for me not to start my contribution by recognising that significant uplift and thanking the government for it. Over this 5-year period, the force has made savings of £13.5 million, showing that we have also focused on efficiency and value for money. However, if we examine the budget more carefully from the 1st of April 2018 to the end of next month, it will be seen that the 0.4 million underspend in 2018, the 1 million underspend in 2019, and a break-even financial position for this financial year were only achieved as a result of additional special grants for the guns and gangs team of £4.4 million, £3 million, and a further £3 million respectively. In other words, without those additional special grants, the force would have been £9 million overspent in the last 3 financial years. This is not sustainable. Indeed, anything that cannot be done for the long term is not sustainable. Those special grants cannot be relied on in the way that core funding can. What happens if they're suddenly withdrawn? This is not a secure and prudent basis on which to employ police officers. The problems with Bedfordshire Police's budget go back to 2004, when damping was brought in, which means that a number of police forces, including Bedfordshire, did not receive the full amount of funding that the National Police Funding Formula said they should get. In Bedfordshire's case, this was a shortfall of around £3 million a year, which used to be equivalent to employing around 95 police officers. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's not an accident that of the 5 Bedfordshire members of Parliament who are able to speak in this debate this afternoon, 3 are doing so. We've always worked cross-party on this for the good of the whole county, and I have met with every police minister to raise this issue since I was first elected in 2001. The reason that Bedfordshire Police is the best represented police force here today in this debate is the severity and profile of crime across Bedfordshire. Now, if a school had a 25% increase in funding over 4 years, we might think that was a very good result. But if the number of children in the school increased by 50%, we might take a different view. And budgets have to be looked at in relation to what they have to be used for. So let me spell out the severity and profile of crime in Bedfordshire. Bedfordshire manages more organised criminal groups than Norfolk and Suffolk combined. It manages 12 organised criminal groups involved with firearms, which is more than Norfolk, Suffolk, Kent and Hertfordshire combined. Bedfordshire Police also manage 18 identified county lines and ranks 4th nationally in relation to county lines, surpassed only by the Metropolitan Police, the West Midlands Police and Greater Manchester Police in that order. And Bedfordshire is not funded in anything like the same way proportionately to its population in the way that those 3 police forces are. Now, if you're a resident in the Metropolitan Police Force area, the West Midlands, Greater Manchester, or even Avon and Somerset, then this issue in Bedfordshire also concerns you, because the county supplies drugs to all of these areas. And overall, the supply of drugs out of Bedfordshire is the 4th highest in England and Wales. Now, all of this was true before the infiltration of the EncroChat server by European law enforcement agencies in Operation Venetic. Bedfordshire Police have been allocated 26 separate packages of intelligence about criminality through Operation Venetic. That compares with only 11 packages to Hertfordshire, a police force area 3 times the size of Bedfordshire, and no packages at all to Cambridgeshire, a county with roughly the same population as Bedfordshire. It is absolutely right that Bedfordshire Police devote resource to tackling the crime uncovered through this intelligence, but doing so is not cheap and comes at a significant cost in police officers and budget. This has led to a lack of resilience within Bedfordshire Police and places the force in a difficult position. I note with very great concern, for example, that one recent investigation undertaken by the Child and Vulnerable Adult Abuse Team took 3 years to bring to a successful conclusion. That was, of course, a good result, but this conclusion could have been reached within a year, which meant that the 11 vulnerable survivors were exposed to horrific crimes for 2 years longer than should have been the case. The impact of all of this within Bedfordshire is that our police resources get concentrated on our 2 largest urban centres. This dates back to a change made in October 2012, a month before the very first Police and Crime Commissioner election. This means that there is not an even distribution of police officers across the whole county. Now, understandably, the Chief Constable will place his resource where it is most needed, but that leaves many areas of the county with significantly less police presence than used to be the case, and less than people have a right to expect, given that they pay increasing taxes and police precept for their own police presence. Let me illustrate this by looking at the police establishment that my largest town, Leighton Buzzard, used to have in 1988. Back then, the town had its own police station with 12 civilian staff, 1 inspector, 6 sergeants, and 27 constables. That is a total of 34 warranted officers based in the town, and there was a 24/7 first responder presence as well, something I want to see in all 3 of my towns. Other police forces do manage to achieve this in towns of a similar size and with similar budgets, but they are not dealing with the crime profile in Bedfordshire. Today, Leighton Buzzard and Linslade have 8 police constables and 3 PCSOs operating out of a shared services site. There is also a reduced police presence in Dunstable and Houghton Regis. Many years ago, the villages in my constituency had police officers living in police houses. That has all gone, and some residents in my villages live in fear that the police will not be able to get to them in time. This has had very serious consequences indeed for some of my constituents and for a number of local businesses. There have been major incidents of modern slavery on some local traveller sites as well. And also the need for 100 officers from 2 neighbouring forces, in addition to Bedfordshire, who were required to police 1 traveller funeral. That is a very great deal of police resource, which is not available to the rest of the county to undertake COVID-19 enforcement and to respond to all manner of crime. We've had also had a very large police presence at least 3 other traveller funerals as well. So although we are grateful for the increased budgets and the increasing number of police officers, they do need to be equal to the challenges that they face. The government needs to be fair about the challenges facing Bedfordshire Police. My constituents expect no less. Successive governments of all political parties have continually failed to recognise the challenges facing Bedfordshire. That needs to change, and it needs to do so on a sustainable basis so that the force can plan for the long term based on its core budget and does not have to hope that it will continue to receive one-off special grants, which are not a sustainable basis to plan for the long term. The Minister said in his opening remarks that he would continue to monitor the demands on police forces. That monitoring needs to be improved and to lead to action and change as far as Bedfordshire is concerned.